When Elon Musk's DOGE began its quest to shrink the federal government, it did not start with Social Security and its $1.5 trillion budget, 21% of the entire government's outlays, or the Pentagon, which will spend $850 billion this year. No, it pounced on a somewhat obscure agency that most Americans probably didn't know existed, USAID, with a budget of about $40 billion, less than 1% of federal spending. Trump called the 63-year-old organization a fraud and a big scam. Musk tweeted that USAID is a criminal organization and that it was time for it to die. Trump, Musk, and other officials have listed a series of programs that they say proves that the agency is wasteful and corrupt. Obviously, they have cherry-picked ones that they think are especially outrageous, except that on closer examination, one finds that these expenditures are neither fraudulent nor even that indefensible. I'll start with one of the most infamous. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the Trump administration has halted a program that would have spent $50 million to send condoms to Gaza. This turned out to be patently false, which Musk later admitted. In the previous 3 years, USAID spent no money on sending condoms anywhere in the Middle East. One reporter asked Musk if the administration might have been looking at a contraceptives program in Gaza, Mozambique. That's a province in the East African country with no connection whatsoever to the Gaza Strip. Now, Mozambique has the 5th highest HIV prevalence in the world. And condoms are actually the cheapest way to prevent the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. A whole lot cheaper and easier than the antiretroviral medication needed after someone is infected with HIV. Or let's look at another program that the Trump administration singled out. Earlier this month, Musk tweeted that his Department of Government Efficiency canceled a $17 million project to provide tax policy advice to Liberia. Why would anyone think that this is a good use of your tax money, he wrote. Again, it's not entirely clear which program Musk is referring to, so much for accuracy and transparency, but USAID has in the past run programs that support the reform of Liberia's tax laws, enabling the government to increase revenues and improve governance. Now, over the decades, a central pillar of U.S. foreign policy has been to encourage other countries to become more capitalist, more market-friendly, and economically open. Liberia is a longtime ally. Why is this a bad use of a few $1 million? Press Secretary Leavitt derided a USAID program that sent $1.5 million to, as she said, quote, advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces. Now, this is true. This grant was to a local organization to promote diversity in general and reduce workplace discrimination against Serbia's LGBTQ community. Recall that the Balkans is a region scarred by sectarianism and violence. Fostering a less tribal, more open and inclusive society could help prevent conflict. Of course, you might disagree that these are wise expenditures of taxpayer money. The Trump administration obviously does, so it should shut them down. But nothing we have learned about them suggests fraud or corruption, something Trump and his aides keep suggesting. Programs you don't agree with are not evidence of malfeasance. But of course, the Trump administration's focus on a handful of small grants is meant to paint the work of the agency as crazy and radical, shoveling money to foreigners. It's an easy way to curry favor with the MAGA base. In fact, USAID is a serious organization that has worked on eradicating polio, on easing famine in the most desperate places in the world, on cleaning up Agent Orange poison that the U.S. inflicted on Vietnam. Most of its money is spent providing medicines, healthcare, and food. As the agency's head under George W. Bush, Andrew Natsios, a self-described conservative Republican, told 60 Minutes, 40% of the staff are accountants and lawyers actively watching out for graft. He called it the most accountable aid agency in the world. It's always been a source of pride to me that as the richest country on the planet, the United States was also the most generous. Every box of medicines, every bag of grain sent to help the sick and hungry had stamped on it from the American people. But now, because politicians in Washington decided to score some cheap political points, those bags are empty, and the poorest people in the world will be the ones to pay the price.